Palo Alto Networks Certified Network Security Engineer Exam PCNSE updated questions are the best material for you to pass the test. 1. What can an engineer use with Global Protect to distribute user-specific client certificates to each Global Protect user? A. Certificate Profile, B. SSL, TLS Service Profile, COCSP Responder, DSCEP. 2. A network administrator wants to use a certificate for the SSL, TLS Service Profile. Which type of certificate should the administrator use? A. Certificate Authority, CA, Certificate, B. Client Certificate, C. Machine Certificate, D. Server Certificate. 3. Before an administrator of a VM500 can enable DOS and zone protection, what actions need to be taken? A. Measure and monitor the CPU consumption of the firewall data plane to ensure that each firewall is properly sized to support DOS and zone protection. B. Create a zone protection profile with flood protection configured to defend an entire egress zone against SYN. ICMP v6, UDP, and other IP flood attacks. C. Add a wildfire subscription to activate DOS and zone protection features. D. Replace the hardware firewall because DOS and zone protection are not available with VM series systems. 4. An engineer wants to configure aggregate interfaces to increase bandwidth and redundancy between the firewall and switch. Which statement is correct about the configuration of the interfaces assigned to an aggregate interface group? A. They can have a different bandwidth. B. They can have a different interface type such as Layer 3 or Layer 2. C. They can have a different interface type from an aggregate interface group. D. They can have different hardware media such as the ability to mix fiber optic and copper. 5. A network security engineer must implement quality of service policies to ensure specific levels of delivery guarantees for various applications in the environment. They want to ensure that they know as much as they can about COEs before deploying. Which statement about the COEs feature is correct? A. COEs is only supported on firewalls that have a single virtual system configured. B. COEs can be used in conjunction with SSL decryption. C. COEs is only supported on hardware firewalls. D. COEs can be used on firewalls with multiple virtual systems configured. 6. An administrator is configuring SSL decryption and needs to ensure that all certificates for both SSL inbound inspection and SSL forward proxy are installed properly on the firewall. When certificates are being imported to the firewall for these purposes, which 3 certificates require a private key? Choose 3. A. Forward Untrust Certificate, B. Forward Trust Certificate, C. Enterprise Root CA Certificate, D. End Entity Leaf Certificate, E. Intermediate Certificates. 7. When an in-band data port is set up to provide access to required services, what is required for an interface that is assigned to service routes? A. The interface must be used for traffic to the required services. B. You must enable DOS and zone protection. C. You must set the interface to Layer 2 Layer 3. Or virtual wire. D. You must use a static IP address. 8. Your company occupies one floor in a single building. You have 2 Active Directory domain controllers on a single network. The firewall's management plane resources are lightly utilized. Given the size of this environment, which user ID collection method is sufficient? A. Citrix Terminal Server Agent deployed on the network. B. Windows-based agent deployed on each domain controller. C. Pan OS integrated agent deployed on the firewall. D. A syslog listener. 9. An engineer needs to permit XML API access to a firewall for automation on a network segment that is routed through a Layer 3 subinterface on a Palo Alto Networks firewall. However, this network segment cannot access the dedicated management interface due to the security policy. Without changing the existing access to the management interface, how can the engineer fulfill this request? A. Specify the subinterface as a management interface in Setup, Device, Interfaces. B. Enable HTTPS in an interface management profile on the subinterface. C. Add the network segment's IP range to the permitted IP addresses list. D. Configure a service route for HTTP to use the subinterface. 10. Which statement accurately describes service routes and virtual systems? A. Virtual systems that do not have specific service routes configured inherit the global service and service route settings for the firewall. B. Virtual systems can only use one interface for all global service and service routes of the firewall. C. Virtual systems cannot have dedicated service routes configured, and virtual systems always use the global service and service route settings for the firewall. E. The interface must be used for traffic to the required external services.